When it came to the announcement of Gotham Knights, I was really interested in it. The premise is an interesting story with both Batman and Jim Gordon being killed, and the Bat family needs to step up as the city's only protectors. Conceptually, this was interesting, even though I'm not for killing these characters. I wanted to see what direction the story would go in, though. This was being made by WB Montreal, and I found their efforts with Arkham Origins to be very underrated. Plus, they contributed to one of the better Arkham Knight DLCs featuring Batgirl as the lead. And we haven't heard from them in a long time. Arkham Origins released in 2013, and there was a period of time where it was rumored that they were working on a Superman title. But outside of some rumors, we never really saw anything come to light. And with Rocksteady moving on to a Suicide Squad game, Knights was in the hands of Ubisoft Montreal, and it had some good stuff going for it. I like the developer, the combat system seemed to be more like an action RPG of sorts, and there would be two-player drop-in co-op. But as more footage and trailers were dropping, I was getting a bit more concerned with this title, especially when it came to its story once the writers for the game were revealed. My hope is that this title turns out to be good or even awesome, and most of my story concerns don't amount to much, with the full game being able to prove me wrong. But as of right now, I have some concerns and I want to discuss them today. I do not have much confidence in the writing team for this game. By looking on Twitter, I found some of the writers who were involved with the project. Ashley Cooper doesn't really have a body of work that I'm familiar with. She has worked on a lot of smaller and unannounced projects. She is tied to the new Space Marine game and mostly worked on Gotham Knights. My concern with her is she hasn't been on anything that jumps out as great writing. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have the talent to deliver something special. I just question if she can deliver on a project of this size. Young has worked on a few Assassin's Creed titles like Syndicate, Unity, and 3. I never played Syndicate and only played a bit of Unity. But for 3, I had a lot of issues with the pacing and the narrative as a whole for that game. So with that, it raises some concerns. My biggest concern comes from writer Mitch Dyer. He was a journalist for IGN for a while and then got into game development. My concern with him is that he has written for 2 games, and both games generally have bad writing and stories. He is able to come up with interesting concepts, but unable to deliver on the execution that is satisfying for the player. His prior works were EA's Battlefront 2 and Squadrons. EA's Battlefront 2 was made by 2 different teams and planned to be a pretty big game. A new studio at EA was created to focus on Star Wars titles, and this was EA Motive, who would handle the campaign and DICE would handle the multiplayer side of things. The launch was extremely rocky for this title as it was full of problems and missed opportunities. Thankfully, on the multiplayer and co-op side of things, the game was able to eventually redeem itself, but on the campaign side of things, it remained one of the worst elements about the project, and much of that came down to the writing. You are going to notice a pattern with the projects that Mitch writes for. The concepts are really good and full of interesting ideas, but cannot deliver beyond that. So in Battlefront 2's story, the player would be playing from the Empire's perspective. Most of the stories used in Star Wars games is about how the heroes will defeat the enemies, but here we would see things from a different point of view, and one that we don't usually see. It was a really cool idea and one that is great to explore in a video game. The narrative follows Aiden as she leads a special ops unit called Inferno Squad, and a nice way to introduce the game and present both the original story with a bit of fan service. We get to experience the events of Return of the Jedi, but through their perspective. At the start, we feel like we are in for a treat, but right as it feels like playing as the Empire is getting interesting, the game throws in a series of situations where they want to deliver impactful moments, either showing great loss for our main characters or something that is meant to cause them to switch sides. But all of this is done without any of the legwork to make these moments feel earned. Aiden experiences many big moments that feed into her motivations, like seeing the Empire experience a great loss with the destruction of the second Death Star, Aiden turning on the Empire, Aiden and Del falling in love, and even Aiden's death. The execution of these moments felt like the writers were hitting checkboxes for the story beats, rather than finding a more organic and developed way to deliver on them. For example, when the Empire sets to attack Aiden's home planet, this is the pivotal moment that causes her to switch sides. I buy that she would have a connection to her home planet, but nothing was presented to the player to make this hit as hard as the game was trying to. This is an example of the writers telling where they should be showing. For example, if Aiden had a mentor-like character on the planet, and leading up to this point we experience flashbacks where the mentor taught her. We saw their relationship, and then when the planet is attacked, the mentor dies, providing a personal investment. not just for Aiden but for the player as well. Connected to this are issues that Aiden has with her father, and he ends up being the one to go ahead and attack the planet. But this is another element that is neither developed on nor explored in a meaningful way. Now back to this moment being what causes Aiden to switch sides, Aiden is a very strong supporter of the Empire, and her turn feels like an abrupt heel turn moment that is extremely underdeveloped. What may have helped this would have been to plant those seeds of doubt earlier before hitting this moment, but when your big side switching moment happens only a few missions in, you don't really have a lot of time to set that up. It can be done, but you need a tighter script than what we had here. We needed more time seeing the Empire at full strength before the Return of the Jedi stuff, so when the second Death Star blows up, it hits harder with better build up to it. Along with this, if we watched Aiden struggle with her duty to the Empire and what she feels is right, it would have made her a more compelling hero to witness. Another issue is how Aiden lacks a true struggle to overcome. She seems to do everything well, and it's hard to get attached to her because of it. The actress is good, but she isn't given much to work with. A missed opportunity here is when Aiden looks to officially join the rebels. She isn't really met with much resistance as being a former Empire soldier. This is another missed opportunity, as this would have been a great challenge for her to overcome. Her joining a cause that she now supports, but the current members question her loyalty. This makes a great opportunity for Aiden to need to prove herself to the organization and show them that she is an ally, essentially turning Aiden into an underdog that we want to root for. Now, without turning this into more of a Star Wars writing issue video than a Gotham Knights story concerns video, I do need to mention Mitch's work on Squadrons. This was another original story, and again, he uses the same idea of having a central character see the evil ways of the Empire and turn to the rebels. This again wasn't developed, and overall the story was very meh. So my point with all of this is to show his present work, and show how he has had two big opportunities to deliver on something good, but has failed both times. And with him being a big writer for Gotham Knights, I don't have confidence that this narrative is going to be good. Just like with Battlefront 2, the premise is good, but will the execution actually deliver? And based on his experience, I highly doubt it. Anyone can come up with interesting ideas and concepts, but being able to practically apply and develop them is where the true talent comes into play. Now maybe he has learned a lot from his prior experiences and brought that to Gotham Knights, and if that is the case, I would love to be proven wrong on my concerns. More specifically on the story for Knights, I'm concerned about Batman and Jim's death. I bet for one or both of them they're actually still alive and in hiding for whatever reason. This will be saved for a big plot twist. I do see the writers trying to do this because Batman and Jim are huge characters in this universe. Some of my problem with them coming back is how obvious it is. If they stay dead, at least for most of the game, I hope they manage to show their death as the inciting action to the game itself, or as an impactful flashback. Personally, I would love to see the game commit to both of them being dead, providing that opportunity for the Bat family to come into their own, and maybe dropping little hints towards the end of the game, and maybe Jim Gordon and Batman are actually alive, but there isn't a definitive answer provided. If Batman and Jim come back earlier in the game, one, it undercuts their deaths, takes attention away from the key Bat family members, and turns their deaths into a false death situation. Something else I hope to see is that the Bat family is struggling to do what Batman has always been able to do. These should be underdogs as they try to measure up to an iconic hero, and most importantly honor Batman as a character and his legacy. To clarify as well, I really do like WB Montreal. Well, at least the team that made Arkham Origins. It was the only Arkham game not made by Rocksteady, and outside of the performance and stability issues, the game was great. I loved the Christmas setting, the story was compelling, incorporating more detective elements was a nice touch, and a nice selection of villains along with a great soundtrack. But based on what I could tell, the WB Montreal making Knights is not the same that made Origins, and I do not know if this new team has the talent to deliver on this promise. Like I said at the start, I want to be wrong about this. I will throw out a good example of where I was. When I saw all of the promotional material for Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought it looked really bad. When I actually got my hands on it, I not only enjoyed it, but I was impressed with the level of writing that we don't usually see in a AAA game. And maybe something like that will happen with Knights. If I end up being wrong, I will gladly eat my words. Now, there are other things to discuss about concerns with Gotham, from its visual designs to some of its gameplay, but this video is all centered on its story, and how I don't have confidence in it, and I hopefully end up being wrong. What are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to this? Let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell, and if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All the links will be at the end of this video, video and within the description, and thank you very much for watching.